All right, today we're diving into something really interesting, Moonshot AI's Kimi K2. And look, this isn't just another small step for AI. We're talking about a huge pivot, a shift from your basic chatbot to what you could call an autonomous worker. This could seriously change the game for how we all build with AI.
This quote right here, it just nails the core idea. Seriously, we need to completely reset our expectations. Forget that endless, tedious back and forth you have with a normal chatbot. The whole philosophy behind Kimi K2 is different. It's about building an agent you can hand a complex task to, walk away, and just let it work on its own.
So this really shows the massive shift in thinking, right? The old way was all about imitation. An AI that knows stuff and just reacts to what you type. But this new paradigm, what Kimi is built for, is all about agentic intelligence. It's engineered to actually perceive its environment, make a plan, reason through the steps, and then, and this is the key part, act. The analogy I love is this. It's the difference between a librarian who just finds the book you asked for and a research assistant who goes off and actually writes the entire paper for you. Big difference.
Okay, so how does this all come together to create this new kind of AI worker? Well, the thing is, this isn't just another model you can swap in. It's a totally different class of tool. And if you want to use it right, you first have to get your head around its pretty unique design philosophy.
So Moonshot did something really smart here. They deliberately split the Kimi family into two very different models. On one hand, you've got the reflex model. Think of this as your quick, speedy bot for simple chats. But on the other hand, you have the thinking model, and this one's built for the heavy lifting, deep, complex problems. And here's the kicker, the most important thing to see here. High latency is being sold as a feature, not a bug. That's a huge mindset shift. And this right here is the core idea. I mean, think about it. You wouldn't ask a human analyst to write a 20-page market report and expect it back in 2 seconds, right? Of course not. And the Kimi thinking model is exactly the same. Its so-called slowness isn't a bug. It's the time it's actually thinking, going through deep, multi-step reasoning. It's designed for an asynchronous world, where you give it a job and it comes back later with the finished product.
So the big question is, how on earth did Moonshot AI actually pull this off? Let's peel back the layers and get into the engineering. It really boils down to 3 key technical pillars that make this whole agentic engine work.
Okay, here they are.
First, a massive yet super efficient architecture. Second, a totally new training optimizer that actually made this huge scale possible in the first place. And third, a really unique alignment process that teaches the model not just to talk, but to act effectively over hundreds of steps.
Okay, pillar 1, scale. Let's just let this number sink in. Kimi K2 is a 1 trillion parameter model. That number, it represents its massive potential knowledge base. It's everything it's ever learned. We are talking about a truly gigantic brain here. But, and this is where the magic happens, for any single task, it only wakes up 32 billion of those parameters. This is the absolute beauty of what's called a mixture of experts, or MOE architecture. You get the brains of a 1 trillion parameter model, but you get the speed and the running cost of a much, much smaller one. The best analogy? It's like having the entire faculty of a university at your disposal, but for any given question, you only call up the 8 professors who are the top experts on that specific topic. Super efficient. Now, training a model this big, it's just notoriously hard. They often just fail midway through. So to solve this, Moonshot AI had to invent a whole new optimizer they call Mu1Clip. And this was a critical breakthrough. It basically solved a huge instability problem, preventing the math from just going haywire during training. And the result? They trained this beast on over 15 times trillion tokens without a single crash. That's a massive competitive advantage right there.
And finally, to turn it into a real agent, they use something called a recursive alignment loop. The simple version is, the model learns by doing stuff, not just by reading about it. Then, a separate critic model scores its work. But here's the really clever part. The critic first checks, is the answer factually correct, before it even thinks about things like style or tone. This stops the AI from reward hacking, learning to just sound good without being right. It forces it to actually be helpful and correct first.
All right, so that's the tech under the hood. Now let's look at the actual models you can get your hands on, because this is definitely not a one-size-fits-all deal. It's more like a family of specialized tools. This table lays it all out pretty clearly. You've got your base model, which is perfect if you want to do your own custom fine-tuning. Then there's Instruct.
That's your fast, everyday chatbot for simple stuff. The one we've been talking about most is Thinking, the heavy-duty agent for deep reasoning. And there's also an experimental one, Linear Instruct, for chewing through incredibly long documents. The main point here is pretty obvious. You've got to pick the right tool for the job.
Okay, so how good is it really? Let's check out the scorecard. We're going to see where Kimi K2 is absolutely state-of-the-art and, just as important, where it makes some very intentional trade-offs.
When it comes to its specialty, agentic reasoning, Kimi Thinking is an absolute beast. I mean, on these really tough benchmarks that test how well a model can act like an agent, things like HLE and BrowseComp, it just sets a new state-of-the-art. It's beating the top competitors, which really proves that this whole specialized architecture thing is paying off.
And this is where things get really disruptive, financially speaking. Because of that super efficient MOI architecture, Kimi K2 is just dramatically cheaper than its rivals. We're not talking a few percent here. We are talking 10 to 100 times cheaper for some jobs. That doesn't just cut your current bills, it opens the door to brand new applications that were just way too expensive to even think about before.
But there's always a but, right? Here's the trade-off. The thinking model's response time isn't measured in milliseconds. It's measured in double-digit seconds. That makes it fundamentally slower than any model built for real-time chat. And let me say it again, this is on purpose, it's by design, but it's something every single engineer has to be aware of when they build with it.
So let's just quickly recap the limitations. 1. The high latency means it's a no-go for real-time interactive apps. 2. It's not quite at the top of the pack for some super specialized coding tasks. 3. It's text-only, and we all know the world is going multimodal. And 4. Its context window is big, but some competitors are now pushing past 1 million tokens. These are just the trade-offs. You gotta know them and accept them.
Okay, so knowing all that, the good and the bad, how should you actually use this thing? Let's put together a quick playbook for how to architect your systems with Kimi K2. Because trust me, if you just try to plug it in like any old API, you're gonna have a bad time. The absolute core strategy is something called a bifurcated architecture. Fancy word, simple idea. You use a fast, reflexive model like Kimi Instruct for anything that your user sees and interacts with in real time. Then, for the really deep, complex stuff, you pass that job off to the agentic Kimi Thinking model, probably through some kind of asynchronous job queue. It's genius, really. You get the best of both worlds, snappy speed for the user and incredible depth for the hard problems.
So what does this mean in practice? It means Kimi K2 is absolutely perfect for building autonomous agents that do research and analysis. It's great for crunching through huge piles of documents, save for legal or financial work, and it's a killer app for large-scale batch processing where you can save a ton of money. Plus, since it's open source, it's a fantastic choice for self-hosted, on-prem deployments where you need that extra layer of privacy.
So what should you stay away from? Simple. Do not use it for real-time code completion in your IDE. The lag will absolutely drive you crazy and kill your productivity. For now, you're better off with competitors for those huge, repo-level code refactoring jobs. And it should go without saying, don't even think about using it for images or video. It's a text model, period.
So what's the final verdict? It's this. You have to stop thinking of Kimi K2 as a faster chatbot. It's not. It's a completely new kind of compute resource. Just like you have CPUs and GPUs for different jobs, you now have this new thing that's specifically optimized for autonomous, complex problem solving. It's an asynchronous workhorse. And that brings us to the one final, crucial question you really need to ask yourself. As you design your next AI feature, are you building just another chatbot, or are you building a system to hire your very first autonomous digital employee? Because with something like Kimi K2, that second option is suddenly very, very real.